Amara stood in the grand foyer of the opulent mansion, the air thick with the scent of polished wood and expensive perfume. Sunlight streamed through the towering windows, casting a golden hue on the marble floors. It was a world that felt foreign to her, a realm of power and privilege that she had only glimpsed from the outside. As a maid, her days were spent scrubbing floors and dusting elegant decor, the meticulous labor a stark contrast to the lavish lifestyle of the owners. At 28, Amara had learned to navigate the complexities of her job with grace and resilience. She had grown up in a modest neighborhood where dreams often felt out of reach. Yet here she was, surrounded by glimmering chandeliers and exquisite art pieces, each a reminder of the life she yearned for but could never attain. She took pride in her work, believing that every corner she cleaned contributed to the beauty of this mansion, even if she was just a shadow in its grandeur. Her morning began like any other, a choreographed routine of dusting, vacuuming, and polishing. She wore her uniform, a simple black dress, and an apron that bore the marks of her labor. With each sweep of her cloth, she daydreamed about a life beyond these walls, one where she could be free to explore her passions and ambitions. Yet she remained grounded, knowing that dreams were for those who could afford the luxury of time. As she moved into the lavish dining room, the sound of laughter echoed from the adjacent parlor. It was the families celebrating a milestone, perhaps a birthday or an anniversary. Amara paused for a moment, allowing herself to indulge in the warmth of their joy. She imagined what it would be like to belong to such a family, to be included in their laughter and love, rather than standing on the periphery as an observer. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Shaking off her reverie, Amara resumed her tasks, her focus returning to the intricate details of her work. Each click of her heels on the polished floor echoed in the vast space, a reminder of her solitude. It was during one of these moments, as she meticulously arranged the fine china, that she first encountered Viktor Petrov, the enigmatic Russian Bratva boss who owned the mansion. Viktor was a man of striking presence, tall and imposing, with sharp features that spoke of both authority and danger. His dark hair was neatly slicked back, and his tailored suit clung to his form in a way that made him appear both dapper and intimidating. Amara's heart raced as he walked into the room, his gaze piercing through her like a winter chill. She had heard whispers about him, the stories of his ruthless reputation that sent shivers down the spine of even the most hardened souls. It was not just his power that captivated her, it was the air of mystery surrounding him. Behind the steely facade, she sensed a depth of emotion that was hidden beneath layers of bravado. As he approached, the world around her faded away, leaving only the two of them suspended in an electric moment. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low and gravelly, a blend of curiosity and command. Amara's heart raced. "I'm Amara, sir. I clean here," she replied, her voice steady despite the fluttering within her chest. She had always prided herself on her professionalism, but there was something about Viktor that made her feel vulnerable, as if he could see through her carefully constructed walls. He studied her for a moment, a flicker of intrigue crossing his expression. "You do a good job," he remarked, his tone surprisingly soft. "But I wonder, what else are you capable of?" The question hung in the air, charged with unspoken possibilities. Amara's cheeks flushed, but she quickly masked her reaction with a polite smile. "I'm just a maid, sir. I'm here to serve." Viktor stepped closer, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You're more than that. I can see it in your eyes." His gaze bore into hers, and for a brief moment, Amara felt seen in a way she had never experienced before. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "I have to get back to work," she stammered, breaking the spell and retreating to her duties. As she left the room, Amara felt his eyes on her, a lingering weight that both thrilled and unnerved her. She couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter marked a turning point in her life. Viktor Petrov was not just a man, he was a force that could change everything. Days turned into weeks, and each time Amara crossed paths with Viktor, the tension between them grew. He would often find reasons to visit the areas she was cleaning, seemingly drawn to her presence. Their interactions became charged with unspoken words, each glance a silent conversation that only they could understand. Viktor was a master of subtlety, always careful to maintain a veneer of professionalism. Yet there was an undeniable chemistry that crackled in the air, a magnetic pull that drew them closer despite the chasm of their worlds. Amara could feel herself softening toward him, her resolve wavering as she saw glimpses of the man beneath the hardened exterior. One evening, as she dusted the grand staircase, Amara caught Viktor watching her from the shadows. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. "You're good at this," he said, breaking the silence, "but you should be careful. You're in a world you don't understand." "What do you mean?" she asked, her heart pounding. "The people I associate with, they're not like you and me. They have a different set of rules." Amara narrowed her eyes, feeling a surge of defiance. "I'm not afraid of them." He chuckled softly, but there was a seriousness behind his gaze. "You should be. This life is not what it seems. There are dangers lurking in every corner." "Is that why you keep looking at me?" she challenged, her voice steady. Viktor took a step closer, the distance between them shrinking. "Perhaps. Or maybe I'm just trying to figure you out." In that moment, Amara felt a flicker of courage. "Maybe you should try trusting me instead." His eyes darkened, and for a brief second, she saw the vulnerability hidden beneath his tough exterior. "Trust is a luxury I can't afford," he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The tension hung thick between them, an unspoken promise of something deeper. Amara's heart raced, and she felt a magnetic pull toward him, an urge to break down the barriers that separated them. But just as she opened her mouth to speak, the moment was shattered by the arrival of one of Viktor's associates, a man with a sinister presence that sent a chill down her spine. "Viktor, we need to talk," the man said, glancing at Amara with a dismissive sneer. Viktor's expression hardened, the warmth from their earlier exchange extinguished in an instant. "Not now," he snapped, but his gaze flicked back to Amara, a silent apology in his eyes. As he turned his attention to the associate, Amara felt a pang of disappointment. She realized that no matter how close they drew, their worlds were still galaxies apart. The magnetic connection they shared was overshadowed by the danger that trailed behind Viktor like a dark cloud, threatening to engulf her if she ventured too close. Days passed, and Amara wrestled with her emotions. She was drawn to Viktor, but the closer she got, the more dangerous it felt. Each encounter left her breathless, yet she couldn't shake the feeling that their connection was a double-edged sword. The allure of his world was intoxicating, but the risks were palpable. She wanted to resist him, to maintain her distance, but the magnetic pull was overwhelming. It was on a particularly tense afternoon, while she was cleaning the sprawling library, that Viktor surprised her once again. She stood on a ladder, reaching for a book on the top shelf, when she felt a presence behind her. Startled, she turned to find him standing there, his expression unreadable. "Amara," he said, his voice low and commanding. "We need to talk." Her heart raced. "About what?" "About us." The words hung in the air, charged with anticipation. "There is no us, Viktor," she replied, trying to sound resolute despite the tremor in her voice. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "I believe there could be, if you'd let it happen. I want you, Amara. You have no idea how much." "What do you mean?" she asked, her pulse quickening. Victor's gaze softened for the first time, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "I'm not just a boss. I'm a man who sees you for who you are, not just as a maid. You have strength, a fire that intrigues me, but there are challenges ahead." "What kind of challenges?" she pressed, a mix of excitement and trepidation coursing through her. "Dangerous ones," he admitted, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But I can protect you, if you allow me to." The weight of his words hung heavily in the air, and Amara felt her resolve begin to crumble. The thought of being pulled into his world, of being more than just a maid, was both thrilling and terrifying. Yet the very idea of leaving her old life behind was daunting. "I don't know if I can," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor's expression shifted, a hint of desperation flickering in his eyes. "You don't have to decide right now. Just promise me you'll think about it. I can offer you a life you've only dreamed of." Before she could respond, he took a step back, the intensity of the moment dissipating as he returned to his stoic demeanor. "I'll be waiting, Amara," he said, his voice low and filled with unspoken promise. As he left the library, Amara felt the weight of his declaration settle deep within her. She was standing at a crossroads, the path ahead shrouded in uncertainty, yet illuminated by the flickering flame of possibility. The world she had known was about to collide with a reality that could either consume her or set her free. In that moment, she realized that her life was about to change forever, and the thought both exhilarated and terrified her. Viktor Petrov was not just a passing figure in her life. He was a force that would challenge everything she believed about love, loyalty, and the price of desire. The question remained, could she embrace the chaos that came with loving a man like him, or would she retreat into the safety of her ordinary existence? As she continued her work, Amara felt the weight of Victor's presence linger in the air, a reminder that she was no longer just a maid in a grand mansion. She was a player in a game far more dangerous and alluring than she could have ever imagined. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the room, Amara knew that her story was just beginning, with Victor at its center. An obsession that would change the course of her life forever. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Amara stood in the opulent kitchen of the Petrov mansion, her heart racing as she recalled Victor's bold declaration. "You will marry me today," echoed in her mind, a jarring intrusion into her otherwise simple routine. The grand space around her felt suffocating, adorned with marble countertops and gleaming appliances that spoke of wealth and power, an existence that seemed worlds away from her humble upbringing. She busied herself with the preparations for the evening's dinner, trying to shake off the lingering shock of Victor's words. Her hands moved mechanically as she chopped vegetables, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Amara had spent years working in this mansion, silently observing the lives of the elite while dreaming of a better future. Yet, the thought of marrying a man like Viktor Petrov, a man wrapped in the shadows of the mafia, filled her with dread. She had seen the way he commanded respect, his presence electrifying the air around him. But beneath that magnetism lay a darkness she couldn't ignore. As she arranged the exquisite plates on the table, Amara's thoughts drifted back to Victor's piercing gaze that day. Those deep blue eyes, so intense and penetrating, had seen right through her, igniting a mix of fear and exhilaration. She had felt exposed, like a delicate flower caught in a storm. She was used to being invisible, to blending into the background of the lives around her. But with Victor, she was something more, someone he wanted, someone he obsessed over. His commanding presence had stirred something within her, a longing she had never anticipated. Amara shook her head, trying to dispel the thoughts. She wasn't some trophy to be won, nor was she ready to step into the world he inhabited, a world of danger, betrayal, and power struggles. She had always prided herself on her independence, on her ability to forge her own path. But Victor was a force she had never encountered before, and every instinct screamed for her to resist. The evening unfolded with the usual grandeur, the dining room filled with the clinking of fine china and the soft murmur of conversation among Victor's guests. She moved gracefully among them, serving drinks and dishes with practiced ease, all the while acutely aware of Victor's gaze tracking her every move. It was disconcerting, the way he looked at her, as if she were the only one who mattered in that crowded room. With each glance, the tension between them thickened. Amara could feel the weight of his attention, a mix of possessiveness and admiration that made her pulse quicken. Victor was a man who had everything, wealth, power, and influence, but she was the one who held his fascination. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. As the night wore on, she caught glimpses of Victor interacting with his guests. He was charming, his laughter deep and resonant, but there was an edge to him, a constant vigilance that spoke of the dangers that lurked in his world. Amara understood that he was not just a businessman, he was a mafia boss, a leader of a ruthless empire. And yet, in those quiet moments when their eyes met, she saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath his hardened exterior. It intrigued her, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. "Amara," he called suddenly, breaking her reverie. She turned to find him standing at the end of the table, a glass of whiskey in hand. The room fell silent, all eyes shifting to her. "Come here." The command in his voice sent a shiver down her spine, but she obeyed, her heart pounding in her chest. As she approached, she could feel the weight of everyone's gaze, the curiosity and intrigue swirling around her like a tempest. When she reached him, he tilted his head slightly, a small smile playing on his lips. "Tell me," he said, his voice low and smooth, "what do you think of my guests?" Amara took a moment to collect her thoughts. "They seem lively," she replied cautiously, her eyes darting to the guests, then back to him. She couldn't shake the feeling that every word she spoke was being scrutinized with the utmost intensity. "Lively," Victor mused, his smile widening. "That's one way to put it. But you know, I prefer honesty. You can speak your mind, Amara. I value that in you." There was something about his tone, the way he emphasized her name, that sent a thrill through her. "I think they're extravagant," she ventured, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her chest. "But perhaps a little too indulgent." Victor laughed, a rich sound that echoed in the lavish room. "You are right, they are indulgent, but that's the life they've chosen, and I suppose I have chosen it too." His gaze locked onto hers, and for a moment, the world around them faded away. "What about you, Amara?" he asked, leaning closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "What life have you chosen?" She swallowed hard, her heart racing. I want a simple life, Victor, one filled with hard work and honesty. I don't want to be a part of your world." The words came out more defiantly than she intended, but she was determined to stand her ground. Victor's expression shifted, a flicker of something dark crossing his features. "A simple life," he repeated, his voice low. "And what if I told you that a simple life can be just as dangerous as the one I lead?" Amara felt the tension crackle in the air between them, a palpable force that threatened to consume her. She dared to meet his gaze, her heart pounding as she searched for any hint of vulnerability. "I don't want danger, Victor. I want to feel safe." "Safe?" he echoed, his brow furrowing slightly. I can offer you safety, Amara, but you must understand, it comes at a price. The truth of his words hung heavy in the air. There was an undeniable allure to the safety he promised, yet the cost was steep. She could feel the pull of his world, a seductive dance that beckoned her closer, even as her instincts urged her to flee. I can't be a part of that life, she insisted, her voice wavering slightly. I won't be a pawn in your game. Victor's expression hardened, but there was a flicker of admiration in his eyes. You think you're just a maid, Amara, but you are far more than that. You have strength, a fire in you that I admire. That's why I want you by my side. I'm not a prize to be won, she said fiercely, her heart racing with a mix of anger and confusion. I'm not someone you can just claim. Is that what you think? There was a challenge in his voice, a spark of intensity that made her heart race. You have no idea what I'm capable of, and you don't understand the depths of my feelings for you. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Feelings? She echoed, disbelief coloring her voice. You don't even know me, Victor. You're drawn to the idea of me, not who I really am. His expression softened, and for a brief moment she saw the man beneath the mafia boss facade. I know enough, he replied, his voice low. You are resilient, intelligent, and unlike anyone I've ever met. You challenge me, and that is rare in my world. The sincerity in his words struck her, a wave of confusion washing over her. How could he see her in such a light? A maid in a mansion, living paycheck to paycheck, and yet he spoke of her as if she were someone extraordinary. It was both flattering and terrifying. I'm just trying to survive, Victor, she said quietly, her voice trembling slightly. I'm not looking for a prince or a fairy tale. I just want to live my life. His gaze bore into hers, fierce and unwavering. But what if I told you that you could have more? What if I could offer you a life beyond your wildest dreams? Amara felt a pang of longing at his words, but she quickly quashed it. At what cost? She asked, her voice steady. I don't want to be caught in a web of lies and danger. I won't compromise who I am for anyone, not even you. Victor stepped closer, closing the distance between them. The air thickened with tension, and Amara's heart raced as he leaned in, his breath warm against her skin. You have no idea what you're capable of, Amara. I see potential in you that you don't even recognize. You could be so much more than you are now. Her pulse quickened at his proximity, the magnetic pull between them undeniable. And what if I don't want to be part of your world? She challenged, forcing herself to meet his gaze. Then you'll never know what you're missing, he replied, his voice low and dangerous. You'll never know the power of being by my side, of standing with me against the world. At that moment, something shifted within her. The fear that had gripped her began to wane, replaced by an undeniable curiosity. Victor was a man of contradictions, cold and ruthless in public, yet revealing glimpses of vulnerability in private. It intrigued her, drawing her in despite her better judgment. I need time, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can't just jump into this. Victor studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Time is a luxury I cannot afford, he said. You're already in my world, Amara. The moment I laid eyes on you, everything changed. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder that there was no turning back. She was entangled in his life now, whether she liked it or not. As the evening drew to a close, Amara retreated to the kitchen, her mind racing with conflicting emotions. She had resisted Victor's advances, but the undeniable chemistry between them made it difficult to ignore. The stakes were high, and she felt the pull of his world, a magnetic force that was both enticing and terrifying. She leaned against the cool marble counter, taking a deep breath to steady herself. The reality of her situation sank in. She was attracted to a man who thrived in chaos, a man whose life was filled with danger and uncertainty. But there was also a tenderness within him that she couldn't help but be drawn to. As she prepared to leave for the evening, Victor found her again, his expression purposeful. "Amara," he said, his voice low and commanding, "you cannot deny what is between us. You can try to push me away, but I will not let you go. I will fight for you." Her heart raced at his words, a mix of fear and excitement flooding her senses. "Victor, please." "No more excuses," he interrupted, his gaze intense. "You are meant to be with me. I will prove it to you." With that, he stepped closer, and the air thickened with tension. Amara could feel the heat radiating from him, the undeniable chemistry that simmered just beneath the surface. "There's so much at stake," she whispered, her resolve wavering. "Then we'll face it together," he replied. "You are not alone in this, Amara. I will protect you no matter the cost." As he spoke, something shifted within her. A flicker of hope ignited, mingling with the fear that had haunted her since their first encounter. Could she truly embrace the chaos that came with loving a man like Victor? Or would she retreat into the safety of her ordinary existence? The answer eluded her, but one thing was clear. Her life would never be the same again. With Victor at its center, she was drawn into a world that challenged everything she believed about love, loyalty, and the price of desire. As the night deepened, Amara stood at the threshold of her old life, staring into the unknown future that awaited her. The weight of Victor's presence lingered like a promise in the air, a reminder that she was no longer just a maid in a grand mansion. She was a player in a game far more dangerous and exhilarating than she could have ever imagined. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Amara's heart raced as she stood in the lavish entryway of Victor's mansion, the opulence surrounding her contrasting sharply with her humble upbringing. The air felt charged with tension, a palpable sense of danger lurking beneath the glittering decor. She had spent countless hours cleaning and organizing this space, yet today it felt different, as if the walls themselves were whispering secrets she was not meant to hear. The weight of Victor's bold proclamation hung heavily in the air, echoing in her ears. "You will marry me today." The words sent shivers down her spine. Could she truly tether her life to a man like Victor? The sheer force of his presence was magnetic, drawing her closer, yet instilling a sense of dread. She had always envisioned a life of simplicity, far removed from the shadows of power and danger that clung to him like a second skin. But there was something about Victor that ignited a spark within her, a flicker of excitement mixed with the fear of the unknown. As she struggled to process his declaration, Victor's piercing gaze bore into her, reading her every hesitation, every flicker of uncertainty. He stepped closer, closing the distance between them, his voice low and commanding. "Amara, I know what you're thinking. You fear the world I come from, but I promise you, there's more to me than just this facade." For a brief moment, his vulnerability shone through, causing her heart to flutter despite her resolve. She had seen glimpses of the man behind the mafia boss persona, the way his eyes softened when he spoke of his past, the rare moments when he let down his guard. Yet, could she truly accept a life intertwined with danger? "I can't just marry you, Victor. This isn't a fairy tale," she replied, her voice trembling as she fought to maintain her composure. You live in a world filled with violence and chaos. I don't belong there." Victor's expression hardened, a flicker of frustration crossing his features. "You underestimate the power of choice, Amara. You are not just a maid in my house. You are a force to be reckoned with. I need you by my side, not just as a wife, but as my partner in this life." His words resonated within her, igniting a conflict between her heart and her mind. She had always prided herself on her independence, her ability to carve out a life for herself. Yet here was a man offering her a chance to elevate her existence, to step into a world she had never dared to dream of. But the shadows of his world loomed large, casting a pall over the possibilities. She thought of her family, her friends, the simple life she had built. "What about the dangers, the enemies you have? I can't be a target because of you." Victor's eyes darkened, a storm brewing within them. "I will protect you, Amara. No one will touch you. You will be safe with me." His voice was steady, filled with a conviction that both soothed and terrified her. "But I need you to trust me, trust in what we could have together." As she stood there, the tension between them crackled like electricity, drawing her closer to him despite her better judgment. Victor was a man who commanded respect, a powerful figure who could have anyone he desired. Yet he was here, fixated on her, and the thought was intoxicating. "I need time, Victor," she finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't just jump into this without knowing what it means." He took a step back, respect dawning in his expression as he considered her words. "I can give you time, but know this, my offer is not one I make lightly. There are those who would see us apart, and the clock is ticking." Amara felt a chill run down her spine at his words. What kind of enemies did he have? What dangers lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike? Victor's eyes darkened, a storm brewing within them. "I will protect you, Amara. No one will touch you. You will be safe with me." His voice was steady, filled with a conviction that both soothed and terrified her. "But I need you to trust me, trust in what we could have together." As she stood there, the tension between them crackled like electricity, drawing her closer to him despite her better judgment. Victor was a man who commanded respect, a powerful figure who could have anyone he desired. Yet he was here, fixated on her, and the thought was intoxicating. "I need time, Victor," she finally replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't just jump into this without knowing what it means." He took a step back, respect dawning in his expression as he considered her words. "I can give you time, but know this, my offer is not one I make lightly. There are those who would see us apart, and the clock is ticking." Amara felt a chill run down her spine at his words. What kind of enemies did he have? What dangers lurked in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike? Yet, despite the fear gripping her heart, she felt a flicker of defiance. If she was going to make a choice, she would do it on her terms. Days passed, filled with a whirlwind of emotions and the growing realization of her feelings for Victor. Each encounter left her breathless, the chemistry between them undeniable. She found herself drawn to him, not just for his power, but for the glimpses of the man hidden beneath the surface, a man capable of love, loyalty, and vulnerability. Yet, the more she learned about his world, the more she felt the weight of the decision resting heavily upon her shoulders. She couldn't ignore the whispers of danger that followed him, the sense of foreboding that had crept into her life since their paths had crossed. Victor's enemies were not just shadows, they were real, and they posed a threat she could not ignore. One evening, as she was finishing her shift in the mansion, Amara overheard a conversation between Victor and one of his associates. The words were low and laced with tension, but she caught enough to understand the gravity of their situation. Victor's empire was under threat, and rival factions were closing in, eager to dismantle everything he had built. The revelation sent a wave of panic coursing through her. She couldn't bear the thought of being a pawn in a dangerous game, of being used to settle scores she didn't understand. But as she listened to Victor's fierce determination, a part of her admired his strength. He was a man who fought for what he cared about, and that passion ignited something deep within her. She had to confront him. The next time they met, she could no longer hide behind uncertainty. She needed to know the truth about the man she was considering marrying. When she found him in his office, the atmosphere was thick with tension. He was on the phone, his voice commanding, but as soon as he spotted her, he ended the call and turned his full attention to her. "Amara, what's wrong?" "I need to know what I'm getting into," she said, meeting his gaze with determination. "You're not just asking me to marry you, you're asking me to enter a world filled with danger. I want to understand what that means." Victor sighed, his expression softening. "I have enemies, yes, and they will stop at nothing to destroy me, but I will not let them touch you. My world is not just about power and violence, it's about loyalty, family, and protecting those I love." His words hung in the air, and Amara felt a mixture of fear and admiration. "And what happens when they come for you? What happens to me?" "I will always put you first," he assured her, stepping closer. "But you must understand that my life is not one that allows for weakness. If you choose to stand by me, you must be prepared for the consequences. There will be threats, and you may find yourself in danger." As he spoke, she felt a surge of emotion, a mix of fear and longing. She could see it in his eyes, the fierce protectiveness that drove him, the depths of his commitment. "I don't want to be a burden," she replied softly, her heart racing. "I don't want to hold you back." "You could never hold me back, Amara," he said, his voice low and filled with intensity. "You are the one thing that keeps me grounded. You make me want to be better. I need you by my side." Her breath caught in her throat as she processed his words. He was offering her a life filled with challenges, but also with the promise of love and loyalty. Victor's vulnerability laid bare before her was an invitation to step into his world, to become part of something greater than herself. But then, the reality of his life crashed back into her mind. She couldn't ignore the risks. They were ever present, lurking like shadows. "I need to know how we can make it work," she finally said, her voice steady. "If I'm going to choose this, I need to understand everything." Victor nodded, a flicker of pride in his eyes. "I will show you, Amara. I will protect you, no matter the cost. But you must promise me one thing. Never doubt your worth in this life. You are not just my obligation, you are my choice." That night, as she lay in bed, Amara wrestled with her thoughts. She was on the precipice of something monumental, a life that could change everything. But the path ahead was fraught with uncertainty, and she had to confront her own fears. The following days brought a relentless series of events that pushed her further into Victor's world. She met his closest associates, men who respected and feared him in equal measure. Each interaction deepened her understanding of the life he led, a life built on loyalty, respect, and danger. Yet, with each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. Rival factions began to make their move, and whispers of threats crept into Victor's circle. Amara felt the tension in the air, the ominous sense that something was coming, something that could shatter the fragile balance they had begun to establish. One evening, as a storm raged outside, Victor returned home later than usual, his demeanor tense. He found Amara waiting for him, her heart racing at the sight of him. "What happened?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. "We have a situation," he replied, running a hand through his hair, his jaw clenched. "A rival faction has made their move, and they're targeting those close to me." Her heart sank at his words. "What does that mean for us?" "It means you need to be careful, Amara. I can't protect you if you're out in the open." The weight of his words settled heavily in the room. She could feel the danger swirling around them like a dark cloud, and her instincts kicked in. "What do we need to do?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. Victor stepped closer, his gaze fierce. "I need you to trust me. We'll talk to my associates, and we can figure out a plan to keep you safe. But you must promise me you won't panic." "I won't," she assured him, determination hardening within her. "I'm not going to let fear dictate my life. If I'm going to be with you, I need to be all in." His expression softened, and for a moment, the tension between them shifted. "You are stronger than I realized, Amara," he said, his voice low, "and that is why I need you." As they prepared to face the threats looming over them, Amara felt a sense of resolve blossom within her. She was no longer just a maid caught in a powerful man's world. She was a partner, a woman willing to fight for love and loyalty. But the battle was just beginning, and the stakes had never been higher. What happened next would not only test their love, but also determine the future they could build together. As they stepped into the unknown, Amara knew one thing for certain. She was ready to face whatever came their way, standing by Victor's side, ready to fight for the life they both desired. The moment of truth was fast approaching, and she could only hope that their love could withstand the storm that was about to break. The air in Victor's penthouse was thick with tension, a sharp contrast to the breathtaking view of the city skyline that stretched out behind him. Amara stood by the window, her heart racing as she stared out at the twinkling lights below. They were a world away from the chaos that had enveloped her life since she crossed paths with Victor. The weight of his declaration still hung in the air like a storm cloud, and she could feel it pressing down on her, stifling her thoughts. "I'm not sure I can do this," she whispered, turning to face him. The vulnerability in her voice was palpable, and Victor's expression softened as he took a step closer. "You don't have to decide anything right now, Amara," he said, his voice low and steady. "But I need you to understand the gravity of what is happening. There are forces at play that you cannot begin to comprehend." She felt the intensity of his gaze, the way it bore into her, searching for understanding. In that moment, it was as if the world around them faded away, leaving only the two of them in a bubble of uncertainty and raw emotion. "I didn't choose this life," she replied, crossing her arms defensively. "I never wanted to be part of your world, Victor. I'm just a maid. I don't belong here." His eyes darkened momentarily, a flicker of something dangerous passing through them, but he swiftly masked it with a calm demeanor. "You may not have chosen it, but it has chosen you. You have something that I need, and I have something that you want." "What's that supposed to mean?" Amara's voice rose slightly, a mix of confusion and defiance stirring within her. "It means," he said, stepping even closer, "that you have captured my interest in a way no one else has. You are not just another face in the crowd. You are strong, resilient, and fiercely independent, and I admire that." His words sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a spark of something she had tried to suppress. The chemistry between them was undeniable, and every encounter seemed to pull her deeper into his orbit. "But at what cost, Victor? What do you want from me?" "I want you to be my partner," he replied, his tone shifting from commanding to earnest. "I want you by my side as I navigate this world of power and danger. Together, we can face anything." The sincerity in his voice was disarming, but Amara couldn't shake the nagging fear that lingered in the back of her mind. She had seen the darkness that accompanied his lifestyle, the threats that loomed over him like shadows. Would she be able to protect herself and him from the dangers that lurked around every corner? Before she could voice her doubts, Victor's phone buzzed on the table, breaking the moment. He glanced at the screen, and his expression shifted, becoming more serious. I have to take this. Stay here. Amara nodded, watching as he stepped away to answer the call. She could see the tension return to his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched as he spoke in Russian, his voice a low rumble. She couldn't help but feel a pang of worry. Whatever was happening in his world was closing in, and she was caught in the middle of it. Victor ended the call after a few minutes, his face darkening further. There's been a development, he said, his tone grave. One of my associates has gone rogue. I need to deal with this immediately. What do you mean, rogue? Amara felt her heart race, a sense of dread creeping in. It means he's threatening everything I've built, and that includes you, he replied, his eyes locking onto hers with fierce intensity. I won't let anyone harm you. A chill ran down her spine at the weight of his words. What are you going to do? I have to confront him, but I can't leave you here alone. Amara's mind raced. She was torn between wanting to protect herself and the undeniable pull she felt towards him. I can handle myself, Victor. I'm not afraid. He stepped closer, his expression softening once more. It's not about fear. It's about the reality of the situation. I would never forgive myself if something happened to you while I'm gone. For a moment, their eyes locked, and she saw the vulnerability in his gaze, the flicker of a man who had faced too many battles alone. It was a glimpse of the man behind the mafia boss facade, and it pulled at her heartstrings in a way she hadn't expected. Then take me with you, she said, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. What? Victor's brows furrowed in disbelief. Amara, it's too dangerous. I can't put you at risk. I'm already at risk by being here, she countered. If I stay behind, I'll be wondering if you're safe. Let me stand by your side. I want to be part of this, whatever it is. His expression softened, and for a brief moment, the tension in the room lessened. You're sure about this? Yes, she replied, feeling a newfound sense of purpose. I'm ready to face whatever comes our way. Victor studied her for a long moment, clearly weighing the implications of her decision. Finally, he nodded. Very well, but promise me you will stay close. I can't protect you if you're out of my sight. I promise, she said, a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The stakes had never been higher, and she could feel the thrill of the unknown enveloping her. Victor grabbed his jacket, his demeanor shifting back to that of the ruthless boss she knew he could be. We need to move quickly. If he's made his move, he won't wait. As they stepped out of the penthouse, a sense of urgency filled the air between them. Amara felt the weight of their decision pressing down on her, but there was also an exhilarating thrill in being part of Victor's world. She was no longer just a maid, she was an active participant in a life that was both terrifying and intoxicating. They descended to the parking garage, where Victor's sleek black car awaited them. He opened the door for Amara, and she slid into the luxurious interior, her heart racing. The atmosphere crackled with tension as he joined her, the engine purring to life. Do you know where to find him? She asked, glancing at Victor as he navigated the streets with a precision that spoke of experience. Yes, he has a hideout in an abandoned warehouse near the docks. It's a risky move, but we have no choice, he replied, his voice steady and focused. Amara nodded, her pulse quickening at the thought of what lay ahead. She could feel the gravity of the situation, the danger that hung in the air like a thick fog. But she also felt the fire of determination igniting within her. She was ready to fight for the life she wanted, to stand by Victor's side against whatever threat loomed ahead. As they approached the warehouse, the atmosphere shifted from tense anticipation to a palpable sense of danger. Victor parked the car a safe distance away, and they stepped out into the cool night air. The shadows danced around them, and Amara could feel the adrenaline surging through her veins. Stick close to me, Victor instructed, his voice low and commanding. They moved silently towards the entrance, the abandoned structure looming ahead like a monster waiting to be awakened. Amara's heart raced as they approached the door, and she could sense the danger lurking just beyond. Victor paused, turning to her with a serious expression. "If things go south, I need you to run. Do you understand?" "I'm not leaving you," she replied fiercely, her eyes locked onto his. He studied her for a moment, the tension between them thickening. "You have to promise me." "I promise. I'll stay close, but I won't abandon you. Not now, not ever." Victor's gaze softened slightly, and for a fleeting moment she saw the man beneath the boss. "All right, together then." With that, they pushed through the door, stepping into the darkness of the warehouse. The air was stale, and the sound of their footsteps echoed ominously in the vast space. Amara's heart pounded in her chest, and she felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her. As they ventured deeper, the shadows seemed to close in around them, and Amara could feel her breath quickening. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and she could sense Victor's protective instincts heightening. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, and Amara felt Victor tense beside her. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice steady yet commanding. A man stepped forward, a sinister smile creeping across his face. "Ah, Victor, I was wondering when you'd show up." "Felix," Victor replied, his tone icy. "What have you done?" The man laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the warehouse. "What have I done? I've simply taken what's mine. You were always too soft, Victor. You think you can keep your little maid safe? This is my territory now." Amara felt a wave of fear wash over her, but she stood her ground beside Victor. "You won't get away with this," she said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. Felix's gaze shifted to her, a glint of amusement in his eyes. "Ah, the little maid thinks she can play in the big leagues. How cute." Victor stepped forward, his expression fierce. "You will not threaten her. This ends now." Felix smirked, his confidence unwavering. "You think you can intimidate me? I know your weaknesses, Victor. You've grown too attached to her, and that will be your downfall." Amara felt the tension in the air thicken, and she could sense the impending confrontation. "Victor, be careful," she whispered, instinctively reaching for his hand. In one swift motion, Victor pulled her closer, his protective instincts igniting. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, Felix," he said, his voice low and dangerous. The two men faced off, the air crackling with hostility. Amara's heart raced as she watched the standoff unfold, her mind racing with thoughts of what could happen next. She had never been in a situation like this, and the reality of Victor's world was crashing down around her. Then, without warning, Felix lunged forward, and Victor reacted instinctively, pushing Amara out of harm's way. The two men collided, and the warehouse erupted into chaos. Amara's heart pounded in her chest as she scrambled to her feet, her eyes darting between the two men. "Victor!" she cried out, panic rising within her. Victor and Felix grappled, their movements fierce and desperate. Amara could see the determination in Victor's eyes, the fierce protectiveness that drove him to fight for everything he cared about. In a moment of clarity, she realized she couldn't just stand back and watch. She had to do something. "Victor!" she shouted again, her voice rising above the chaos. As if he heard her, Victor glanced her way, and in that brief moment, their eyes locked. It was a silent exchange, a promise that they would fight for each other. Summoning her courage, Amara searched for something, anything, that could help. Her gaze landed on a nearby metal pipe, and she rushed towards it, gripping it tightly in her hands. She could feel the adrenaline coursing through her veins, igniting a fire within her. With newfound determination, Amara approached the two men, her heart racing. "Get away from him," she yelled, swinging the pipe towards Felix with all her strength. The impact caught him off guard, and he stumbled back, momentarily distracted. Victor seized the opportunity, delivering a powerful blow that sent Felix crashing to the ground. "Get out of here," he shouted to Amara, his voice urgent, "now!" But she shook her head defiantly. "I'm not leaving you." With a fierce determination, she stood beside him, ready to face whatever came next. They were in this together, and she wouldn't back down. Felix looked up, fury etched on his face. "You think you can protect her, Victor? You're a fool." Victor's eyes darkened, his jaw clenched in determination. "You made a mistake coming here. I will not let you harm her." As the tension escalated, Amara felt the weight of their decision pressing down on her. She was no longer just a maid. She was a partner, standing beside Victor as they faced the storm together. The battle was far from over, but together they would confront whatever challenges lay ahead. In that moment, Amara knew that their love was worth fighting for. They would face the darkness together and emerge stronger than ever. The stakes had never been higher, but she was ready to face it all, for love, for loyalty, and for the life they both desired. As they prepared to confront Felix once more, Amara's heart swelled with determination. She was ready to fight for the future they could build together, a future that would not be defined by fear, but by their unwavering bond. The moment of truth was upon them, and she could only hope that their love would withstand the storm that was about to break.